Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as DraftKings. I'm sporting my DraftKings beanie that I've had for longer than they have sponsored us, so this is not free merch, I promise you that. But use promo code THPN, the DraftKings Sportsbook app, for great odds and opportunities. That's definitely something that you should be doing. But here we are in the second segment of this show. Horwat, you have a trade, not to announce, but to throw out there as a potential trade target.
Oh, absolutely, to throw out there, because someone that we have both enjoyed watching, despite him being on a very not fun team to watch against the Penguins, Jake DeBrusk has requested a trade out of Boston, which apparently he did a long time ago, but has kind of stuck around to try and compete because he is a good player on that team. He just hasn't had the same success as previous seasons. But finally, things are coming to a bit of a head there, and the real attempts are being made to get Jake DeBrusk out of Boston for whatever reason it may be. Now, he hasn't had the greatest of starts this season, but he wants to be traded specifically for new surroundings, and that always helps a player. What better surroundings than the Pittsburgh Penguins for Jake DeBrusk, because it is a player that me and you have both agreed on would enjoy on this team. I mean, that Boston itch can really... That's a good little thing to have. Bring it. Every team should have that little Boston. I don't even know how to put it, but like the way Boston plays, every team should have one or two players that can do that.
I was about to say, please don't call it the Boston itch. You're going to make it seem like they all have like syphilis or something up there.
No, it's just that like gritty, grimy sort of style that they don't give a shit. Put it that way. That's what it is.
The swagger.
Yeah. Now, Jake DeBrusk, it's not that he's the biggest player in the world, but he can be capable of doing something. Now, I don't know too much of the Boston end of things. I took it out of my story that I wrote. You can take a look at it. Brlansky, you'll have those notes, but I have names that can go the other way, because I figured that would be interesting, right? Because the Penguins, as of right now, they're not a team that needs to make a trade. They don't need to. This I just kind of lofted out there as it's inevitable. Trades are going to happen no matter the team, the sport, or the year. Trades are bound to happen, so why not make the best of a trade that can happen, and that is adding Jake DeBrusk let's start with the discussion of Kasperi Kapanen, because while everybody wanted him to be the breakout player for the Penguins this year, it really hasn't happened. It's been a little inconsistent. He's in a contract year, and I mentioned Kapanen first because DeBrusk and Kapanen, whether you like it or not, are identical players. They're both 25 in the last year of an RFA deal. They're both making just about the same amount of money at $3-something million. And if you go even further and look at their stats, they're also identical in the matter of DeBrusk has played 261 career games for 140 points. Kapanen, 264 for 134. Dude, that's close. That's very close. So it's not game-changing. The only thing that might be different about them is that DeBrusk is a left-handed shot, and I think a different wing. But again, with the amount of depth and maneuverability this lineup has on the Penguins, you can make it work. Slide him in somewhere. I want to hear your thoughts on the Kapanen trade.
Kapanen for DeBrusk would certainly be interesting. The trade would be 1-for-1 from what
I don't know any extra details of everything, but the way they're so identical, 1-for-1 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and honestly, you're right on track with what Boston seems like they're looking for, because reportedly there have been over 12 teams that have inquired about DeBrusk. But I mean, the Bruins are not going to rush to make this trade. From all intents and purposes, what we've heard from is the Bruins, they're going to take their time and make sure this is a good trade, because they still think very highly of Jake DeBrusk. I mean, they're sad to see that he wants a trade, obviously, but DeBrusk has struggled, and they still think highly of him. They think he's a good player, which should also be a red flag that, hey, he's a good player. Like, this is just he just needs new surroundings for the most part. So the fact that the Bruins, they're going to take their time, they're going to try to get something back, because they're not a rebuilding team. This is a team that's trying to go for it. So according to Elliot Friedman, they're supposedly looking for a player of equal value.
Hey!
So that goes hand in hand with you saying, DeBrusk, Kapanen, they're basically the same player at this point. Now they're an NHL caliber forward. That's what the Bruins are looking for in return. Now, the only thing that would kind of go against your story is the fact that I haven't seen the Penguins in the mix yet. I've seen other names. I've seen obviously Arizona, the Rangers have been involved. I've seen Vancouver be involved as well. Just about 5 or 6 names that have been thrown out by reporters. I have not seen the Penguins yet, but that does not mean that they haven't inquired. I mean, 12 teams is over a third of the league. So there's a good chance that the Penguins are part of that list.
Like I mentioned, it's just like the Penguins aren't a team that needs to make a trade. It's just there's always room for improvement. Even the best teams can have more good players and can improve. So it's just a quick little note. More names that I did mention. Let's see. Let's go to the Casey DeSmith one because that's a fun one. Because Casey DeSmith, let's just tell it like it is. We don't want to see him around too much longer anyway. He's going to get another shot this weekend as there's a back-to-back. But I'm assuming that's his last chance. At least from my end, I would like it to be his last chance. And this was also a deal that the Penguins would, pick up DeBrusk and not a goalie because we can fill that backup goalie role in-house because Jari's playing phenomenally. We don't need a top-tier, upper echelon backup. We got Louis Domingue in the minors floating around, who at one point was 21-5, remember?
Yeah.
So he's been there, he's done that, and why not give him his, another chance at the NHL? I mean, like I said, Tristan Jarry's playing phenomenally. We don't need the top-tier backup. Louis Domingue can handle it, and we added Jake DeBrusk into the lineup. Now, with that, you got to make some tough decisions on who's going where because you haven't subtracted a forward.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets difficult. But it's a weird, good problem to have. Again, this is just a short one of, hey, let's just get DeSmith out of here because, damn it, we want him out of here.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it would be probably Dom Simone, I would imagine. But looking at the schedule, though, for the Penguins, and I don't want to get too deep into this because, Casey DeSmith, we talked about him last week. We're going to mention him a little bit in our Pens poll for this week. But the Penguins play tonight against the Kraken. They have 3 days off then before that back-to-back. And that back-to-back is back. I mean, you have the Capitals and the Ducks. Those are 2 teams that are playing pretty good this season. I could see Tristan Jarry, if he's not completely overworked on Friday.
Oh, man.
I could see him playing both of those games because then after that, they still have 2 days off. And that's the start. Once they come back from DC on the 11th, they're home for about 10 days before going back out on the road. And that next road game is only New Jersey. So I could definitely see them riding Tristan Jarry on Friday and Saturday, which we won't preview that because we still have a Thursday episode to do. But yeah, there's a chance that we still don't see DeSmith this weekend.
Wow. All right. Still, it's just, we don't want to see DeSmith, I guess. It's as plain and simple as that.
I want to see him perform better. I do. But the way Tristan Jarry is playing, if you see the fact that it says Casey DeSmith is starting in net, you're going to be like, oh, damn.
Yep.
Well, not that he hasn't been good historically, but it's just the fact that the way Tristan Jarry is playing right now, you want to win every game. If you're a fan, you want to see your team win every game. And if DeSmith is in over Jarry right now, you just know it's like, okay, this is going to be an uphill battle from the start.
Yeah, you want your better chance to win. You want to ruffle some feathers with this next name and say Brian Rust?
Yeah, we'll do. I don't want you to give your entire story away, but let's talk about Brian Rust.
Don't worry about it. We'll leave this as like the last one.
Okay.
Because the other two, the other one makes sense, and the other one might be a little interesting. But Brian Rust, because this one just might be a hard pill to swallow, has been inconsistent most of his career here.
Yeah.
We can't, yes, he's one of the better goal scorers on the team, but that's when he is on. But when he's off, he is off, and it's not pretty. He's also injured quite a lot.
Yeah, you probably couldn't trade him now because he's injured, but
no. But may I also add in last year of a contract? Believe is going to be a UFA.
Yeah,
but he's going to be able to request a boatload of money, despite inconsistencies and injuries, and he's going to be 30. So why not subtract 5 years for Jake DeBrusk? And stick him on the wing with Crosby, maybe. I mean, I don't know what the immediate return would be, but for someone who's on the wrong side of 30, going to be requesting a ton of money and is very inconsistent, it might be a hard pill to swallow in Pittsburgh, but Brian Rust does not stick around too much longer, I think, just because of, I don't know, you got to hope those inconsistencies go away whenever he returns from injury. he's got to earn it, I think. I mean,
Yeah,
we're going to want to keep him, but still.
Yeah, he's gotten off to a rough start this season. I mean, you also think the fact that I believe this is his second stint on the injured reserve this year.
Yep.
So he's already faced injuries this year. When he's played, he has 2 goals. One of them was an empty netter against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the opening game. So he's had a bad season.
Yep.
Plus he's been injured in a contract year where he's still going to be able to, and his agent, and don't think they won't. His agent's going to point to the fact that says, last year and the year before that, my client, Brian Rust, would have been a 30-goal scorer if it was not for COVID.
Oh, absolutely.
If you played 82 games, he would have been a 30-goal scorer twice for you. And he's already making, what, $3.5 million?
Yep, 3.5.
He's gonna request Jake Guentzel money, and he does not. Like, let's just do this from a fact. I love Brian Rust first and foremost, but Brian Rust versus Jake Guentzel, who's the better player?
Jake Guentzel.
Should Brian Rust, in any sense of the word, get paid more than Jake Guentzel?
Probably not. No.
No, there is not a world where the Penguins should be paying Brian Rust more than they're paying Jake Guentzel. You want to know why? Because Brian Rust is a speedy trigger man. That is what he is. Jake Guentzel is a trigger man. He's a setup man, and he's the best person to play with Sidney Crosby probably in the history of his career.
Yeah.
There's no way you pay anybody more than that guy if their name is not Malkin, Crosby, Letang, or potentially a goaltender, potentially a Tristan Jarry type.
Yeah.
So are you going to want to pay Brian Rust? I don't know. That's a question for a little bit later. But is he on a trade block? Listen, if the Penguins are out of it, he's gone.
Yeah.
But currently the Penguins are in it. So that's when the question becomes, do you keep a guy you've won 2 cups with, or do you move on from him to try to help in other areas?
You see, the interesting thing is the Penguins are in it, but Brian Rust hasn't been in it. He's been hurt. Like we mentioned, 2 stints on the IR. He's only played 12 games.
Yeah.
And while they are wins he's playing in, mostly. Now we've had some losses with him too. We're about 500 with him in the lineup this year. 3 overtime losses, 3 regulars, and 5-3-2. 5-3-3. 6-3-3 with him in the lineup. Hey man.
Hey.
And what, 9 points?
He has 2 goals, 7 assists?
9 points in 12 games. Man, I don't know. Maybe this is me trying to get used to the fact that Brian Rust might not be on this team because we do like him, but he is 30 and is no longer really progressing into the player he can be. He's there. He's at his point. He's going to be, like you said, the speedy trigger man.
I mean, as of right now, the Penguins have 3 top 6 wingers that are underperforming.
Yeah.
Let's be completely honest. Rust, Kapanen, and Zucker are all underperforming as far as goals are concerned. So something's got to change there. And is that DeBrusk? Maybe. I mean, if it gets into a bidding war, the Penguins, Ron Hextall, he's not gonna get into a bidding war over anybody, especially a guy like Jake DeBrusk when he has to give up an NHL talented guy. But we'll see what happens with that situation. Obviously, like we said, the Bruins, they're not in a rush. So this is something that could go on for the next month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, and something I did want to ask whenever we were talking about the DeSmith thing, I know DeSmith is a backup, but what is going on with Tuukka Rask exactly?
He's currently unsigned, but he's also recovering from an injury.
Yeah, I knew he was.
So when he comes back from injury, he wants to play for Boston.
Yeah.
He would like to play for Boston, but he's not 100% stuck on Boston, is the latest we've heard. I mean, we haven't heard much about Tuukka Rask because he's still recovering, but he said he would love to play for Boston. Previous reports were that he would only play for Boston, but it did come out that he said, you know what, if Boston does not want me, then I would consider playing for another team. I don't know.
But then they picked up Ullmark, right?
They have Linus Ullmark and they have Jeremy Swayman that are actually doing a pretty decent job there. Okay. Half decent.
The record may not totally show it, but yes.
They've also had no secondary scoring. So
yeah. So it's the DeSmith one. It's an interesting one because we know DeSmith is just a backup, and they're about to have if big question mark if Tuukka Rask comes back. They have a 1A 1B. Boom. They're not doing starter backup.
Yeah.
And then what do they do with Swayman, who they really like?
Yeah, that, and I'm not sure how much pool a guy like DeSmith has for anything right now.
Right. It's just, I just throw him in to throw him in.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also another thing about the Penguins, it's a lot of players. I got to find it. I think it's like 14 NHL contracts up at the end of this year.
15.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, Hextall and Burke are going to be able to mold this team into whatever they want after this year.
Yeah. So everyone's strapped in. We said last offseason was going to be interesting, and it kind of was.
Mm-hmm.
This one might be a real one, though, because we have so many contracts up. A lot of them are red UFAs, and some big names are up, i.e. Letang, Malkin, Rust, Kapanen, who's a blue RFA, but stuff to watch. Could be a different team. And maybe DeBrusk can be part of it.
It's a great way to end this segment, but we are going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to talk about our Pens poll from this week and our Pens poll from last week, because we need a couple shout outs here before the end of this episode. So we'll be right back.